Microchip implants are a popular way to keep track of pets. Now, some people are getting them, but for a different reason.
The microchips can help unlock doors or log into a cell phone. Consumer Watch reporter Julie Watts explains.
Tim Shank uses it to open his front door and manipulate a smartphone.
And it turned off my ringer.
Chrissy Heischman uses hers instead of a key card at work.
And it's just a little glass bead like the size of a grain of rice.
They're among a growing number of people implanting technology under their skin.
We don't want to carry devices. We want devices built into us.
Zoltan Ishvan of Mill Valley belongs to the Transhumanist Party. The movement seeks to radically improve humans through digital implants, even genetic manipulation. For now, a common procedure, implanting programmable RFID chips under the skin. But instead of a doctor's office, many are turning to tattoo and piercing shops.
We're doing the procedure start to finish just like we would do an earring, a nose ring, a belly button ring. It's just a little piece of glass.
The online company Dangerous Things sells the device and injection kit for $57. But they're not alone. A San Francisco company is developing tiny implantable digital tattoos. They'll authenticate credit cards, track your location, even collect health data. But the next big thing does present an age-old tech problem.
I have the older chip now. I need to get the upgrade.
Constantly being forced to upgrade implanted technology can mean a pain in more than just the pocketbook.
The Somalia-based terrorist group Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for an attack on a Mogadishu hotel. The attack killed at least 15 people. Attackers detonated a suicide bomb outside the gates of the hotel before storming the building and taking hostages. Somali officials said security forces swept the building Saturday night to end the siege, killing at least 4 militants. Hotels frequented by lawmakers and government officials aren't unusual targets for terrorism. Al-Shabaab claimed a similar attack that left 16 people dead at the Ambassador Hotel in early June. The group has been largely driven out of Mogadishu and other Somali cities thanks to intervention from the African Union, but it still has the capability to launch terror attacks.
Another concern sparked by the move is the future of the close ties between London and Washington. The US president has been quick to claim the so-called special relationship between the allies will endure. But the White House has made it clear it's not happy about Brexit, which Barack Obama has warned voters against.
The United Kingdom is at its best when it's helping to lead a strong Europe. Our focus is in negotiating with a big bloc, the European Union, to get a trade agreement done. And UK is going to be in the back of the queue.
Obviously, the president stands by what he said, and I don't have an update of our position.
For years, the UK has been America's right arm on the European continent. Relations between the two countries have traditionally been strong, even bordering on intimate.
Just as our nations share a special relationship, David and I have shared an extraordinary partnership.
Incredibly close.
This relationship has allowed the U.S. to have greater involvement in European affairs. A recent example of this bond is the controversial transatlantic trade partnership. Many in Europe fear it would give transnational companies too much power, but Prime Minister David Cameron has been a faithful supporter of the deal.
Barack and I remain among the most determined to achieve our vision of a US-EU trade deal.
When the proposal for an EU army was flirted with in the bloc, something which would undermine NATO's influence in Europe, Cameron was quick to knock back the idea.
It isn't right for the European Union to have capabilities, armies, air forces and the rest of it.
And when voices in Europe began to speak out in favor of abolishing anti-Russian sanctions, the UK was always there to remind others of their importance.
Ukraine is the victim of Russian-backed aggression. We must never forget that fact. And the G7 is clear that existing sanctions must remain in place until the Minsk agreement is fully implemented.
Back in 2013, the U.S. pushed for military action to be taken against the Syrian government for the alleged use of chemical weapons, an idea that was not particularly well received in many European countries. But of course, 10 Downing Street was on the same page as 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
American president and I have had discussions that have been reported in the newspaper about potential military action.
The interest of the United States in the status quo in Europe, there's a sense that Britain is the closest U.S. ally in the European Union, and with them leaving, it's going to reduce America's influence within the rest of Europe. They're probably going to have to try much, much harder to maintain anything close to the same amount of influence they had before.
Here at the British Embassy in Washington, D.C., one of these flags may soon be taken down as Britain voted to break with the European Union on Thursday.
Well, President Obama has designated Stonewall Inn in New York City a national monument. The bar was the site of an uprising by the LGBT community in response to a police raid in 1969. The protest sparked the LGBT civil rights movement in the U.S. The monument will include not just the inn itself, but also the nearby streets and sidewalks where the uprising took place. President Obama made the announcement in a video released by the White House.
So this week, I'm designating the Stonewall National Monument as the newest addition to America's national park system. Stonewall will be our first national monument to tell the story of the struggle for LGBT rights. I believe our national park should reflect the full story of our country, the richness and diversity and uniquely American spirit that has always defined us, that we are stronger together, that out of many, we are one.
In the aftermath of the Orlando massacre, there's increased security at LGBT pride events around the world this weekend. There were parades from London to the Philippines all the way to Cincinnati, Ohio. DeMarco Morgan shows us how New York City is gearing up for one of the world's biggest pride parades.
Pictures and flowers lined the outside of New York's historic Stonewall Inn, where people rioted after police raided the bar back in 1969. The newly designated national monument to gay rights now includes a memorial to the 49 people who were killed at a gay nightclub in Orlando.
They're going to be in the march with us.
Danny Ochoa works for the Latino Commission on AIDS. His organization is building a float for New York City's Pride March. It will be covered with 49 flower petals, one for each of the Orlando victims.
This is the opportunity to show our faces. This is the opportunity to say, hey, we are here.
We are Orlando. Friday night, Barbara Poma, the owner of Orlando's Pulse nightclub, spoke at a rally.
I want you to know that Orlando and the world's gay community are strong and united. We will not allow evil to prevail.
Suzanne Goldberg is a law professor at Columbia University.
The president, of course, designated the Stonewall Inn as the first gay national monument. What does that mean?
This is a tremendous marker in the trajectory of LGBT rights and really of American history, because it places the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender movement in the pantheon of American civil rights.
Last year, 1.6 million people took part in New York's Pride March. Rena, the NYPD has heightened security. Event organizers are expecting nearly 2 million people this year.
On the streets of Mexico City, men and women celebrate gay pride. Amid the drag queens and rainbow banners, there's an undercurrent of anxiety. These festivities come just 2 weeks after a gunman killed 49 people at a gay nightclub in Orlando, 3 of them Mexican citizens.
Well, we have already seen the recent events filled with lots of violence and hate, but also hate among the same LGBT community. A lot needs to be done in terms of acceptance, but also ourselves, to break all the stereotypes and finally grow happy and healthy.
For many here, this parade and other public displays of tolerance have taken on even greater importance post-Orlando. They say the parade is their way of honoring the lives of the 49 victims.
Well, June is National Gay Pride Month, and as those parades are happening, we have something special happening here in Arizona. The LGBT community is celebrating with the Miss Gay Arizona pageant.
Yeah, it is the first and the longest running female impersonator pageant in the country. It's tomorrow at the Tempe Center for the Arts, and joining us this morning is the reigning Miss Arizona here, Nevaeh McKenzie. Yeah, thanks for being here with an art glamorous glory. Yes. We love it. We love it. Never early. Too early for that.
Very
though.
early.
It really isn't. So tomorrow's pageant is in Tempe, and I love this. It's actually called Sparkling Diamonds, a Night at the Moulin Rouge. Yes. I wouldn't expect anything less. I mean,
absolutely
we
not.
have to do it big, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the pageant. What is it all about?
It's the Miss Gay Arizona America pageant, which is a qualifying state preliminary to Miss Gay America. It is celebrating its 31st year here in Arizona, but the Miss Gay America system is one of the longest running pageant systems for female impersonators in the country. So it's one of the, so Arizona America is one of the most prestigious titles here, and really one of the most prestigious titles in the nation.
Transgender people may soon be able to serve openly in the U.S. military.
Multiple reports citing unnamed officials say the Pentagon is walking back its previous ban on trans people in the armed forces. It's reported there will be an announcement in early July. In 2011, many celebrated when the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy was dropped, but the military did little about the T in LGBT. Coming out as trans while serving could mean getting dismissed. Past medical guidelines banned openly transgender people from the service, and the military has been inconsistent in implementing new regulations. Last year, U.S. Defense Secretary Ash Carter asked for a study to see if there was any reason not to lift the ban against trans people serving, a move that drew a lot of criticism. One of the most outspoken critics has been Representative Mac Thornberry of Texas. He's previously said his main concerns are about the cost of special housing and facilities for transgender service members, and if the military would be responsible for providing transition-related medical treatment. But the commission's study said because there's so few transgender people in the military, allowing them to serve openly wouldn't cost much. The study estimated only 2,450 transgender people are in the military. Other estimates put that number higher, between 12 and 15,000 people.
Villagers in Russia's Perm region woke up recently to find a popular fishing and swimming spot nothing but a muddy memory. The small lake, about 200 feet long and 10 feet deep, was simply gone. A sinkhole had opened up, draining the water and fish away. Locals say a recent earthquake caused it. Others blame fracking for oil and gas in the area. But one scientist called it normal, saying the geology in the area created many deep caverns. Still, locals fear a nearby lake they depend on for their water could be next.
At least 23 people are dead and an untold number are missing after historic floods washed through West Virginia. Nearly 10 inches of rain poured down Thursday night, sending rivers of floodwater sweeping across roads and through homes. Late today, President Obama signed a disaster declaration, making federal funding available for flood victims in 3 counties. Chris Van Cleve is in the town of Raynell.
Search and rescue teams, some on foot, some by boat, go door to door in Raynell, West Virginia, looking for survivors from Thursday's historic flood. It looks like a war zone when you go through these houses. State Trooper C.S. Hartman worries among the destruction will be more bodies.
That's the last thing I want to do, but we're prepared for it.
The once-a-century flood left the small town of Clendenin looking nearly underwater. 44 of West Virginia's 55 counties were inundated. The National Guard and FEMA have been called in to help. Thousands are without power. At least 100 homes suffered significant damage or were destroyed.
Everybody lost everything.
Becky McClug struggled to take in the destruction as she waded back to her home of nearly 20 years, only to throw out most of what's left.
We never thought it would be this bad.
Once the first responders check a house, they put that orange X on a window. In this one, they labeled it vacant. No one was inside. Steve LaMontagne was last here Thursday using a boat to rescue his elderly aunt. But her dog, this very scared little guy, was left behind. It took a little teamwork to get him out from under the bed, into his cage.
I'm glad you guys were here. I'd never get that dog inside.
And out of the wrecked house.
What do you think this will mean to your aunt?
Everything. The dog was the main thing she was worried about when she left.
The weather has finally cleared, and while there is still a lot of water in parts of Raynell and other portions of West Virginia, those water levels are quickly coming down. The same cannot be said for the recovery effort. The cleanup, the rebuilding, that will take considerably longer.
Well, 2 people are dead after they tried to flee California's largest wildfire of the year. The fire, which is only 5% contained, is in Kern County. That's about 40 miles northeast of Bakersfield. It's been burning since Thursday. About 30,000 acres have been destroyed, including 80 homes. Carter Evans has more from Lake Isabella, a community just on the edge of the fire. Carter, good morning.
Good morning. When this fire started on Thursday, it just exploded and the flames ripped through communities like this one so fast, the firefighters just couldn't keep up. And that's why so many homes just like this one were just burned to the ground.
An inferno of destruction tore through rural mountain communities near Lake Isabella, overwhelming firefighters as home after home went up in flames.
It was my grandparents' home. I grew up in that house, and it's not even the things inside of it. It's something you can't replace.
The fire caused propane tanks to explode and power lines were destroyed. As the fast-moving flames spread, 2 people were killed.
2 people who we believe were trying to escape the fire. They had actually gotten out of their home and apparently were overcome with smoke.
Some 800 firefighters are attacking the wind-whipped flames, but Louis Garcia saw no one when the fire closed in on his home.
The house next door was already burning. It was engulfed. It was just a wall of fire. Couldn't hardly breathe, couldn't hardly see.
His neighbors came to the rescue, climbing on his roof with garden hoses.
If your neighbors hadn't pitched in, if you hadn't hosed down those trees.
Well, I don't think I'd have a house today.
This is the most destructive fire in a week that has seen drought-stricken California hit with several major wildfires.
We're using hand crews, bulldozers, air tankers, helicopters, everything in our arsenal to stop this massive, devastating wildland fire.
Now, these 2 deaths are being treated as a homicide until arson can be ruled out as the cause of the fire. Authorities are actually bringing in cadaver dogs today. They're going to be going through rubble like this, searching to see if there are any more fatalities. Meanwhile, the weather this weekend, it's expected to be hotter and windier.
How'd you get so far?